Here we have a normal, healthy young man. And here we have a fellow who's been experimenting with PlayStation for only a few minutes.
The PS1 was easily my favourite console when I was younger. Between that and the Game Boy Color, there was never really a moment when I couldn't enjoy gaming. Except for maybe bedtime, because little 5-year-old me didn't have all of this. Despite all these drawbacks, however, I did find—
Hey, stop!
Okay, so here's the thing. A couple of people have mentioned in my Tomb Raider 2 video that when the PS1 was released I was very young. So young in fact I wasn't even born yet. This never really mattered to me, as when I was just a little bambino, I used to watch my older brothers play the PS1 for hours on end. And when I was finally old enough to work the controller, you bet your ass I was all over that. My PS1 playing years started when I was about 2 or 3 years old, and continued up until, well, today. I still continue to love the games I enjoyed when I was a child, and to my surprise some of the games I played were ported to Steam, such as the Oddworld series and Tomb Raider series. There were some games, however, that weren't lucky enough to make it onto Steam despite having a PC release, either because of compatibility issues, licensing issues, or simply just not enough demand to make it possible. This is where emulators really bridge that gap between this game isn't on PC, I want to play it, this is probably illegal. When emulators became more accessible, I had to dig right to the back of my mind to remember some of the games I enjoyed playing, and that's kind of what this video is about. So, that sound ain't never gonna get old. Easily. Whenever I think back to the good old days of eating junk food in my underwear, staying up past 9 PM and playing video games without a care in the world, the classic Tekken games will always come to mind. My family never owned Tekken 1 for some reason. I guess we missed that somehow. Luckily. However, we absolutely decimated Tekken 2 and 3. Many hours were spent just playing this game over and over again like it was going out of fashion, learning how to play all the characters, playing against each other, taking turns and trying to beat the later levels. I don't think there's a single game out there that can replicate the good wholesome fun, like repeating the same combos over and over and over and over and over. There was always something about the older Tekken games that always had me coming back for more. Call it nostalgia or whatever, but I preferred the PS1 Tekken games to the newer ones. I even recently uninstalled Tekken 7, but that's probably for another video. Overall, I can say without a doubt, if you're someone who loves simple controls, great mechanics, and somewhat outdated graphics that still look kinda good, then give the older Tekken games a chance. After all, without them, we wouldn't be able to play Negan in Tekken 7. Great. Ape Escape to this day is one of my favourite games, hands down. Considering Ape Escape was the first game in history to require 2 analog sticks in order to play it, they really nailed it. The left stick was used to move the character, whilst the right stick was used to aim the net or the lightsaber or whatever item you had, not to control the camera like you'd expect from modern games. The camera in this game is controlled with triggers and shoulder buttons on the controller, well, unless you're looking first person, then it's the analog sticks, but that doesn't count. The goal of the game was simple: catch monkeys, get items, save the world, and its simplicity is what made it so remarkable for me. There was none of this old garbage loot box shenanigans back in my day. The levels on this game are set in different points of time and space, meaning one minute you're in some classic little mountainside, the next you're chasing dinosaurs, the next you're in a dinosaur, and then you just chill out on the beach. How about that? The game's simple gameplay and diverse levels are what kept me interested in continuing playing this when I was a kid. And even to this day, I don't think the graphics have aged too badly. My only issue is when I tried to get this game recently, is I found that the NTSC and PAL versions had different voice actors. See, the NTSC voice actors are all,
"Hey, Spike, did the professor finish the time station yet?"
whereas the PAL voices are, well, kids.
Hey, Spike, do you think the professor finished his time machine?
In terms of gameplay, both versions are more or less identical. The PAL version runs at 50 FPS, lagging behind the NTSC's 60 FPS because of TV refresh rates back in the day. So if you've become too used to the smoothness of modern games, I'd recommend the NTSC version purely for the small frame rate increase, but if you're an elitist like me, then you'll still be content with the PAL version of the game. The biggest nostalgia trip for me was the music. All the instrumentals in this game are beautifully crafted to fit the current level you're playing, and the composition of the audio was very diverse. For example, the music would be very jolly in some levels like Krabby Beach, but be more sinister in levels such as the Dark Ruins. There was also a secondary track that would play if the player would crawl, making the music quieter and only playing the more notable instruments, which really made you feel like you were actually being sneaky. Like Tekken, Ape Escape had many great sequels that wouldn't have been possible without the success of this title, and also had some unexpected crossovers, like Apes in Metal Gear Solid 3, and a Metal Gear Sneak mission in Ape Escape 3, which was still way more welcome than Negan in Tekken, am I right? It's a shame that nothing has come from this series in recent years because I've enjoyed all the Ape Escape games from release. Maybe someone somewhere deep in Sony's HQ is working on some kind of Ape Escape remake or remaster. We got a glimpse of what that would look like with Ape Escape on the Loose, which was a PSP remake of Ape Escape 1, but considering there hasn't been a main series game since Ape Escape 3 on the PS2, I'd say it's unlikely. But we still have emulators to keep the older games alive and thriving. And now it's time for games that I couldn't be bothered to cover entirely. A Bug's Life! Yeah, this game was pretty good. I mean, fucking Toy Story! I played this game a lot. The soundtrack was kind of jamming. The first Harry Potter game! What the fuck is wrong with Hagrid's face? Rugrat! The ghosts were kind of scary in that one level. Duke Nukem Time to Kill and Land of the Babes! I was probably not old enough to play this at the time. The first GTA! I was definitely not old enough to play this at the time. Basically, what I'm trying to say with this video is these guys were wrong and I know my PS1.